The night was heavy with smoke and fear. The royal palace of Valera, the shining heart of the alien empire, shook as explosions echoed outside its walls. Guards ran through silver corridors, shouting orders, their armor shining blue under emergency lights. The queen's banners burned in the distance. Inside the inner chamber, the princess hid behind a marble pillar, her silver gown torn, her crown gone. Her hands trembled as she whispered, "Is anyone there?" No answer came, only the sound of collapsing walls and falling dust. Then, from the shadows, a figure stepped forward. His armor was dark, scratched, and old, unlike anything made on Valera. A long rifle hung across his back, and a faint blue light blinked on his helmet. He spoke in a calm voice, deep and strange to her ears. "Stay down, princess. Don't move," she froze. His accent was ancient, his tone steady. She had never heard a voice like his. Before she could ask who he was, a plasma bolt hit the wall behind her. The man turned, moved like lightning, and fired once. The attacker fell before making another sound. The princess gasped. "Who are you?" He didn't answer. He only checked the door, scanning for more threats. "We need to move now," she hesitated. "The others, my maids, my guards, they're gone," he said softly. "I'm sorry." Her heart ached. She didn't know why. But even with his face hidden, she felt safe beside him. They ran through the royal halls, broken glass crunching under their feet. Statues of past queens lay shattered. Outside, alien warships rained fire upon the city. The princess stumbled, her ankle twisting. Before she fell, the man caught her easily. His grip was strong but gentle. He lifted her as if she weighed nothing. "Let me down," she whispered, embarrassed. He didn't listen. "We don't have time." As he carried her through the smoke, she looked at his armor more closely. It was human, ancient, battle-worn. On his shoulder was a faded symbol, a blue circle around a white star. She had seen that mark before. In forbidden books, humanity's mark, but humans were extinct, gone for centuries, yet here he was. They reached the lower tunnels beneath the palace. The man placed her down gently. "You'll be safe here for a moment." She looked at him, her silver eyes glowing faintly in the dark. "You're not from Valera. What are you?" He checked his weapon. "Doesn't matter. It matters to me." He finally turned toward her. For the first time, she saw his face as he lifted his helmet slightly. Dark eyes, sharp features, and a quiet sadness. "I'm your guard," he said simply. "That's all you need to know." Before she could reply, a blast shook the tunnel. Dust fell from the ceiling. The human shielded her with his body. "Stay behind me." She obeyed, though fear filled her heart. When the attackers burst in, he moved like a shadow, swift, silent, precise. Every shot he fired hit true. Every movement protected her. When it was over, 5 alien assassins lay on the floor. The princess looked at him, speechless. "How did you do that?" she whispered. He just said, "Training." Hours later, they reached the royal safe room. The queen herself was there, tall, majestic, and furious. She turned as the door opened, seeing her daughter alive, and a strange soldier beside her. "Who is this?" the queen demanded. The princess opened her mouth, but no words came. The human stood silent, head bowed, like a servant before a god. The queen's voice hardened. "Speak, soldier." "State your name." The princess stepped forward quickly, her voice trembling. "He saved me, mother. He's the reason I'm alive." "That wasn't my question," the queen said coldly. "What is his name?" The princess looked at the human. He didn't move, didn't speak. His eyes told her everything. He didn't want to be known, so she took a deep breath and whispered, "He's just my human." The queen froze. The room went silent. Every guard stared in shock. Human. That word had not been spoken in centuries. The queen's face turned pale, then darkened with anger. "Impossible," she hissed. "Humans died long ago." The princess stepped closer to her protector. "Then what stands before you, mother?" The human looked up, his gaze cold but respectful. "With all due respect, your majesty." "Not all of us died." Gasps filled the room. The queen's eyes narrowed like blades. "Then you are a danger to my world." The human said nothing. He simply stood still, the smoke from battle still rising behind him. The queen looked at her daughter, then back at him. "Tomorrow," she declared, "we will see what kind of creature you really are." As guards surrounded him, the princess's heart pounded. She didn't know his past, his secrets, or his pain. But she knew one thing. This human, whoever he was, had risked everything to protect her, and for that, she would never let him stand alone. The next morning, the sun never reached the palace windows. Thick clouds of smoke still hung in the sky. Soldiers worked to rebuild broken walls, and whispers spread like wildfire. The queen's daughter had been saved by a human. In the quiet of the royal courtyard, the human stood chained, his armor removed, his face uncovered. The alien stared at him with cold eyes filled with fear and curiosity. Some called him beast, others said ghost. The queen sat on her throne, tall and calm, but her gaze was sharp as a blade. The princess stood beside her, heart racing. "State your name," the queen commanded again. The human looked straight ahead. "Names don't matter. Everything matters before the throne of Valera," the queen snapped. "Who are you?" He stayed silent. His calmness made her angrier. The guard stepped forward to strike him, but the queen lifted her hand. "Enough, put him under royal guard. I will decide his fate." The princess couldn't stay silent anymore. "Mother, please." "He saved my life." "Silence, child. You know nothing of what he is," but she did know, or at least she felt she did. There was something pure in the way he had shielded her, something that didn't belong to a monster or a liar. That night, she slipped through the guards and went down to the lower cells. The torches flickered weakly and the air smelled of metal and dust. The human sat against the wall, his wrists still bound, his eyes half closed. "You shouldn't be here," he said quietly. She stepped closer. "You shouldn't be in chains." He gave a soft, tired smile. "Royal law. A creature like me is a threat." She knelt beside him. "You're not a creature. You're different. You're human." At that, his expression changed. He turned his face away. "That word means nothing now. Humans died long ago." "But you're here," she whispered. "You're proof." He didn't answer. For a moment, silence filled the air between them. Then the princess noticed a small metal object in his pocket. A piece of broken metal shaped like a star. "What is this?" she asked. He hesitated, then let her take it. "That's all that's left of my world." "Earth?" He nodded slowly. "Once long ago. Before the Great Purge. Before the Empire decided humans were too dangerous to exist." Her heart sank. "Why dangerous?" "Because we don't kneel," he said softly. "Because we protect what we love even when it kills us." For the first time, the princess truly understood why her mother feared him. It wasn't because of his strength. It was because of his spirit. Humans didn't obey. They cared too deeply. She looked at him again. "You fought for me." "Why?" He closed his eyes. "Because you were afraid. And I couldn't let you die." Something in her chest tightened. No one had ever said words like that to her before. Not her guards, not her advisors, not even her own family. The next morning, the queen ordered a trial in the great hall. The entire court gathered to see the human judged. He was brought in with his hands bound, but his steps were steady. The queen stood and addressed her people. "This being claims to be human, but humanity was erased for treason against the crown. He will answer to the law." Gasps spread through the crowd. The princess's stomach turned with fear. The queen looked at him again. "If you are truly human, prove your loyalty. Serve the Empire as a weapon, or die as a rebel." The human's voice was quiet but strong. "I don't serve empires. I protect lives." The hall fell silent. "Then you are a rebel," the queen said coldly. The princess stepped forward, shaking. "Mother, stop. He's not a rebel. He's—" But before she could finish, soldiers pulled her back. The queen's hand rose. "Enough. He will face trial by combat. Let him earn his place. If he can." The crowd roared. The human didn't move. He simply looked toward the princess. His eyes said everything. "Don't be afraid." That night, as the palace slept, the princess sat by her window watching the stars. Her heart was heavy. She couldn't forget his words. "Protect what you love." The stars shimmered and she whispered softly to herself, "Then I'll protect you too, my human." She didn't care what law or bloodline said. Something deeper was calling her, a bond born from courage, not race. And somewhere in the darkness below the palace, the human opened his eyes. He knew what awaited him, death or freedom. But for the first time in years, he felt something he thought was gone forever. Hope. The sun rose over the shining towers of Valera, painting the royal palace in red and gold. But inside those bright halls, tension filled every corner. The Empire's citizens gathered in silence to witness something no one had ever seen before. A living human standing before the alien throne. The Queen sat upon her crystal seat, her long cloak flowing like liquid silver. Her eyes, sharp and unreadable, rested on the chained man in the center of the hall. Around him, alien nobles whispered. "He cannot be human," one hissed. "He's too strong. Maybe a machine? Or a curse." The princess stood at her mother's side, her face pale but brave. She wanted to speak, but one look from the Queen silenced her. The Queen raised a hand and the room quieted. "You, the so-called human. You stand accused of deception and trespassing in my palace. Before your sentence is given, you will answer this one question." Her voice echoed like thunder. "What is your name?" The man looked up slowly. His face was calm, his voice steady. "I had one long ago, but where I come from, names don't save lives." The Queen's expression hardened. "Do you mock my court?" "No," he said softly. "I only speak truth." Gasps rippled through the audience. No one had ever spoken so plainly to the Queen. The princess clenched her hands, praying her mother would not order his death. But the Queen only smiled, a cold, sharp smile. "If you wish to live nameless, then you will die nameless. Prepare the royal arena." Her advisors looked startled. "Your Majesty!" "I will see for myself what kind of creature hides behind that face," the Queen said. "If he survives, I will decide whether he is a threat or a miracle." Later that day, the royal arena roared with noise. Thousands of alien citizens filled the seats, their blue and green skin shining under the light of twin suns. The ground below was made of red sand, the same sand that had buried countless warriors. The human stood at the center, unarmed. His armor was gone, his hands free, but his calm never broke. The princess sat behind a glass wall, tears welling in her eyes. Her heart screamed to stop it, but she couldn't disobey the Queen. The Queen raised her hand. "Bring out the champions." 3 alien warriors entered the arena, their bodies tall and strong, their weapons glowing with plasma energy. Each had slain 100 men before. The Queen's voice echoed. "If you truly are human, prove it. Survive." The human's jaw tightened. He didn't bow. He didn't speak. He simply took a deep breath. Then the first champion lunged. The human moved like lightning. He caught the alien's blade, twisted it, and broke the warrior's arm in one motion. The crowd gasped. The second charged, faster than the eye could follow. But the human dropped low, swept his legs, and sent him crashing into the sand. The third raised his energy spear and struck down. The human rolled aside, grabbed the weapon mid-swing, and turned it back on its owner. A flash of light, a scream, and silence. 3 warriors fell. The human stood untouched. For a moment, no one breathed. Then the arena erupted into noise, shouts of fear, disbelief, even awe. The Queen's face was unreadable. Her eyes narrowed, studying every movement, every breath he took. "Impossible," she whispered. "A creature without tech. Defeating royal blood?" The princess's heart filled with pride and fear at once. She wanted to run to him, but the guards blocked her way. The Queen stood slowly. "Enough," she said. "Bring him to me." Back in the throne room, the Queen circled the human like a predator. "Where did you learn such skill?" "War," he said simply. "Against who?" He looked at her. "Against everything that tried to own us." Her voice dropped lower. "Us? Humans," he said. "Before your kind erased us." The Queen froze, her eyes flashing with anger and shock. "You dare blame the Empire for your extinction?" "I don't blame," he said calmly. "I remember." For a second, silence filled the room. Then the Queen's cold mask cracked just slightly. "You speak like one who has seen too much," he nodded. "Because I have." The Queen turned away. "Take him back to the cells. He will be questioned again tomorrow." But as the guards dragged him out, the Queen whispered under her breath, "There's something more in him, something old." That night the Queen couldn't sleep. In her private chamber, she stared at an old hologram, a history record of the Great Purge. Images of burning earth, destroyed cities, and soldiers with the same star symbol as his armor. Her heart trembled. "Could one have survived?" she whispered. At that same moment, down in the dark cell, the princess quietly unlocked the human's door. "You shouldn't be here," he said again. "I know," she whispered. "But Mother suspects something. She'll dig until she finds out who you really are." He looked at her with calm eyes. "Then let her. Maybe the truth is what this empire needs." The princess shook her head. No, if she finds out, she'll destroy you. He smiled faintly. Then you'd better stay close, princess. For the first time. She smiled back softly, sadly, as if she already knew what fate awaited them both. The morning air inside the royal palace felt different. Heavy, waiting, dangerous. The sky above Velera was tinted red from the rising twin suns, as if the world already knew that today. Blood would fall inside the queen's throne room. The queen sat high upon her crystal seat, wearing a black gown that shimmered like oil. Her crown gleamed with cold fire. Around her stood soldiers, priests, and advisors, all silent, all waiting for her judgment. At her feet knelt the human, silent, calm, but wounded from the battle the day before. Dried blood marked his hands, but his eyes remained steady. The queen's voice echoed through the grand hall. You fought well yesterday, human. Too well. Some call it skill. I call it deceit. The princess, standing near the throne, clenched her hands. Mother, he fought with honor. The queen's eyes flashed. Enough. You will remain silent, daughter. This is not about your feelings. It is about truth. She looked down at the human. You said your kind were gone. Yet you fight as if you've trained for war every day of your life. Where did you come from? He didn't answer. His silence was a wall she could not break. The queen's expression darkened. Very well. If you will not speak, perhaps pain will make you remember. She raised her hand. The guard stepped forward, but before they could move, the princess shouted, Stop! She ran between them and the prisoner, her long hair falling loose around her shoulders. If you harm him, you harm me. The hall froze. Gasps echoed. The queen rose slowly, her fury hidden behind a calm smile. What did you say, my daughter? The princess's voice trembled, but she didn't back down. He saved me when no one else could. He protected me when your guards ran. He is my guardian. My human. The words struck the room like thunder. The courtiers whispered wildly. The queen's cold mask finally cracked. You're human? She repeated softly. The princess nodded. Yes, and if he dies, I will never forgive you. The queen's rage boiled over. She slammed her staff into the marble floor, and a flash of blue energy filled the air. The guards drew their blades, but she held up her hand again. No. I will not kill him with blades, she said. He will die by honor. Her gaze turned to her royal champions, 6 of the strongest warriors in the empire. Bring them here. He will fight before me again. If he survives this, I may believe he is more than a beast. The human rose to his feet. I'm not your beast, he said quietly. But I'll fight. Moments later, the throne room transformed into a battleground. The nobles watched from behind energy shields, whispering prayers and bets. The 6 champions circled the human. Their armor glowed gold and red, their weapons humming with deadly power. The queen gave a single nod. The battle began. The first champion lunged, his blade slicing through the air. The human dodged, grabbed the man's arm, and slammed him into another. Sparks flew. 2 more attacked from both sides. The human ducked, rolled, and pulled one into the other's strike. The crowd gasped as plasma cut through armor. The 4th champion roared, swinging a hammer larger than the human himself. The human jumped aside just in time, but the hammer struck the ground, cracking the marble. Dust filled the air. The human coughed, eyes burning, but his body moved on instinct. He kicked the weapon's shaft, sending the hammer flying, then punched the warrior in the throat. The alien fell, gasping. The 5th tried to stab him from behind, but the human turned, catching the blade bare-handed. Blood dripped from his palm, but he didn't stop. He pulled the weapon away and struck fast, silent, clean. Only one remained. The biggest, the strongest, the queen's personal guard. He stepped forward, his armor blazing bright red. Enough games, creature, he growled. Kneel, the human smiled faintly. You first. They clashed, strength against strength, power against will. Sparks flew, weapons broke, and the marble floor split beneath their feet. When the dust cleared, the alien lay still. The human stood over him, chest heaving, face bruised, but alive. The throne room fell silent. The queen's hand trembled slightly. What are you? She whispered. He looked up at her, his voice calm but full of fire. I told you. I'm human. The queen stared at him for a long time. Behind her calm face, fear began to grow. This man, this relic of Earth, had defeated her best warriors without armor, without mercy. He wasn't just strong. He was something more, something dangerous. The queen turned away. Take him to the lower vaults. Do not let him see the sun again. The princess cried out, "No, you can't." "Enough," the queen roared. "You are blinded by your heart. This human is no guardian. He is a weapon, and weapons must be locked away." Guards dragged the human toward the shadows, but before he vanished, he looked back at the princess. His lips moved silently, just 2 words: "Stay brave." Her tears fell. Her chest ached, but she nodded. As the doors closed, the queen turned to her advisors. "Search the old archives. Find everything about the last humans. I want to know how one survived." In her voice there was no curiosity left, only fear. The night on Valira was cold and silent, but inside the underground vault, chains rattled softly. The human sat alone in a dark cell, his body bruised, his breath slow but steady. A single light blinked from the ceiling, flickering like a dying star. He didn't know how long he had been there, hours, maybe days. The silence pressed heavy on his mind. He could still hear the queen's voice echoing in his memory. Lock him away. Never let him see the sun again. But even in the darkness, he was calm. Humans were born to survive the impossible. Then, soft footsteps. He raised his head. "Who's there?" A figure moved through the shadows. The light caught a familiar face, the princess. Her royal robe was gone. Instead, she wore a guard's cloak. Her silver eyes glimmered with fear and determination. "You shouldn't be here," he said quietly, just like before. "And yet here I am." She whispered back, "We don't have time. The guards will change shifts in 10 minutes. He frowned. "You're risking everything." She stepped closer, unlocking his cuffs with a stolen key. "You risked everything for me. Now it's my turn." The locks clicked open. The human flexed his wrists, blood rushing back into his hands. "Your mother will hunt you," he warned. "She already hunts me," the princess said softly. "Not for what I've done, but for who I care about." Their eyes met. For a moment, the world seemed to stop. Then she whispered, "Follow me." They moved through the underground corridors, lit only by the faint glow of alien runes. Every corner was guarded, every hallway alive with danger. The princess knew the palace better than anyone. She led him through servant tunnels and secret lifts hidden behind statues. Her small hand pressed against cold stone, opening a door that led into the hangar. Rows of ships rested under dim blue lights. The human stared at them. "You're stealing a royal ship?" She smiled faintly. "Borrowing. I'll return it when the Empire stops chasing us." He couldn't help but chuckle quietly. "You sound more human every minute." They climbed aboard a sleek silver craft, its design curved like a bird's wing. The princess sat in the pilot's seat, her fingers trembling as she activated the controls. "Can you fly this?" he asked. "I've been watching my pilots for years," she said nervously. "How hard can it be?" The ship hummed to life, engines glowing pale blue. The hangar alarms flashed red. Someone had noticed the activation. "Harder than you think," he muttered, taking the co-pilot seat. His fingers danced across the console. "I'll handle launch." The princess looked at him in surprise. "You know how to fly?" "I learned when Earth still had skies," he said. Her heart twisted. Every word he spoke felt like a memory of a world she had never seen. "Hold tight," he said. "We're leaving." The ship roared as it lifted off. Guards rushed into the hangar, shouting orders, firing plasma bolts. The human angled the ship sharply upward. Energy blasts grazed the hull. "Shields down," she cried.
"They'll hold,"
he shouted back. The ship burst through the palace roof, shattering glass and stone, and shot into the night sky. The city lights fell away below them as they climbed toward the stars. But freedom was not easy. The Queen's fleet detected them within minutes. 6 royal cruisers lit up the darkness behind them, weapons armed. "This is your mother's idea of forgiveness?" the human said grimly. The princess bit her lip. "She'll destroy me before she lets me leave." The ship's alarm blared. A plasma missile locked onto them. "Hang on." The human spun the ship, diving through clouds of energy fire. The stars blurred around them as the engines screamed. He flipped a hidden lever and activated old human tech, something he had secretly installed when he was a soldier long ago. The ship's body flickered with golden light, vanishing from enemy sensors. The princess gasped. "How did you—" "Humans never fought fair," he said with a faint grin. They slipped past the enemy cruisers, disappearing into the asteroid belt beyond the planet. Inside the quiet ship, both of them breathed heavily. The princess looked at him, her voice soft. You could have left me behind. He shook his head. And let them kill you? That's not how humans work. For a long time she said nothing. Then she whispered, maybe that's why the universe feared your kind. He looked out the window at the endless stars. Maybe. Or maybe we were just too good at loving what we couldn't keep. The silence that followed was deep and heavy but warm. The princess leaned back watching him. He looked broken, scarred, yet still full of fire. And for the first time in her life she felt safe. Not because of the ship or the stars, but because of him. Behind them, the Queen's voice echoed across the fleet channels. Find my daughter. Destroy the human. Bring me their ashes. But even as the command spread, the stars swallowed the small ship whole, hiding it in the endless dark. Inside, the princess closed her eyes and whispered, where will we go? The human smiled softly. Anywhere that isn't ruled by fear. Will we be safe? He looked out into the stars again. No, but we'll be free. The stars outside burned like white fire. The small silver ship drifted between asteroids hidden in the cold dark. Inside, the hum of the engines was the only sound until the princess finally spoke. Do you think she'll stop chasing us? She asked softly. The human didn't look up. He was repairing a cracked control panel, his hands covered in grease and blood. Your mother doesn't stop. She rules by fear. If she lets us go, her empire will crumble. The princess lowered her gaze. Then what will you do? He paused, tightening a wire. I'll do what humans always do. And what's that? Fight back. His voice was calm, but behind his eyes burned something fierce, a storm that had slept for centuries. Far away, inside the royal flagship, the Queen stood before a massive holographic map. Red dots marked her fleet's ships spreading across the system, hunting the fugitives. Any signal yet? She demanded. A commander bowed. None, Your Majesty. They're hiding inside the Arkan Belt. Send the destroyers, the Queen hissed. I want that human's body floating in space before the next sunrise. As the fleet engines roared to life, the Queen whispered to herself, You think you can steal my daughter, human? You will learn what happens to those who defy a queen. Back in the asteroid field, the princess watched the stars flicker outside the cockpit. She looked at the human, his face half lit by the soft blue light of the ship. You can't win against her, she said quietly. Her fleet is endless. He smiled faintly. Maybe. But endless doesn't mean unbeatable. He stood, walked to a hidden compartment and opened it. Inside lay an old metallic device, human technology, rusted but alive. What is that? She asked. The last piece of Earth, he said. A pulse drive. It can turn one ship into a storm. Her eyes widened. That's ancient tech. Dangerous. So am I, he replied. He placed the device into the ship's power core. The entire vessel trembled, energy pulsing through every wire. Once we start, he said, there's no going back. The princess looked at him. Then let's not go back. Moments later, the ship shot out of the asteroid field, engines glowing gold. The Queen's fleet spotted them instantly. There, a commander shouted. Open fire. Plasma blasts filled the void, lighting the darkness in blue and red. The human twisted the controls, dodging between missiles and debris. The ship groaned, but it kept moving. Hold tight, he shouted. The princess clutched her seat, her heart pounding. You're flying straight toward them. Exactly, he pressed a red switch. The old pulse drive came to life, glowing brighter and brighter until the entire ship was surrounded by a golden storm. What are you doing? She cried, ending the chase. The fleet opened fire. Hundreds of plasma bolts streaked toward them. But as the light reached the ship, the human's tech exploded into action, a burst of golden energy that rippled through space like a tidal wave. The enemy sensors went blind. Their systems shut down one by one. The human's small ship darted between their ships like a ghost. He moved with precision, targeting the weak spots. One cruiser exploded, then another. The golden storm followed him, tearing through engines and shields. On the Queen's flagship, alarm screamed. What is this power? The commander shouted. The Queen's eyes widened. That's not alien tech, she whispered. That's human warfare. Her hands trembled. For the first time in years, she felt fear. The human ship dove beneath the largest battleship. The princess looked at him in awe. You're outnumbered 100-1. He grinned. Then I guess they'll need more ships. He fired again. The pulse drive's energy surged, wrapping around their ship like wings. Explosions painted the stars, but with every burst the power core grew hotter. Warnings flashed red. The princess saw the readings. "It's overloading. You'll destroy us." He didn't stop. Freedom always costs something. She grabbed his hand. "Then we pay together." Their eyes met, hers full of tears, his full of fire. At that moment the ship broke through the last line of enemy vessels. The Queen's fleet was in ruins, drifting in the silence of space. The human slammed the emergency lever, releasing the pulse drive. The device detached and exploded behind them, creating a shockwave that pushed their ship into the dark void beyond the system. For a long time, nothing but silence filled the air. Then the princess opened her eyes. "Are we alive?" The human smiled weakly. "For now." She laughed through her tears. "You're insane." He looked at her softly. "Maybe, but you're free." Far behind them, the Queen's flagship burned. Her soldiers watched in horror as wreckage floated through space. The Queen stood on the bridge, her crown cracked, her face pale. She whispered one word, trembling with rage and disbelief: "Human." Her empire had never lost a battle before this day. But now, one nameless human had done what no army could. He had defied her, and survived. Inside the small ship, the princess sat beside him. Stars passed silently around them. "What now?" she asked. The human leaned back in his chair, eyes distant. "Now we disappear." She smiled. "And after that?" He looked out at the endless stars. "Then we make sure no one ever forgets what it means to be human." The galaxy was quiet. The war was over, or so it seemed. Broken ships floated among the stars, their fires dimming, their captains silent. The once mighty fleet of Queen Valera was gone, swallowed by the darkness she herself had created. But in the endless black, a single small ship drifted, damaged, nearly lifeless. Inside, two figures sat together, their faces lit only by the soft blue glow of the fading controls. The human sat at the pilot's seat, eyes half closed, his breathing slow. His arm was burned from the last blast of the pulse drive. The princess knelt beside him, wrapping his arm in bandages torn from her own cloak. "You shouldn't have pushed it that far," she whispered. "You nearly burned yourself alive." He smiled faintly, his voice rough but warm. "Better burned than buried." "You say that like it's a joke?" she said softly, tears in her eyes. He turned his head toward her. "If we're still breathing, it's a good day." Her heart ached at his calmness. Even after everything, the battles, the pain, the loss, he spoke like a man who had already made peace with death. She touched his hand gently. "We won, didn't we?" He looked out at the stars. "We survived. That's not the same as winning." Far away in the ruins of the royal palace, the Queen stood alone in her silent throne room. The air smelled of smoke and broken glass. The banners of her empire lay torn around her feet. Her advisors were gone. Her fleet was gone. Even her daughter was gone. But her pride still lived. She stared at a small hologram, a recording from the last battle. The image of the human's ship bursting through her fleet repeated over and over again. Her voice trembled, full of fury and disbelief. "One man, one human destroyed everything I built." Her eyes turned toward the stars. "Then I'll destroy everything he loves." She walked to the chamber below her throne, a room known only to the rulers of Valera. Inside it, hidden beneath centuries of secrets, rested a single sphere of black energy. The Queen placed her hands upon it. "Project Eclipse," she whispered. "Activate." The sphere pulsed once, then began to glow with a dark light that spread through the room. "Erase their trail," the Queen commanded, "and erase the human's world. Forever." Back aboard the small ship, alarms began to blare. The stars outside flickered strangely as if space itself was trembling. "What's happening?" the princess asked, her voice rising in fear. The human checked the readings. His face went pale. It's not a weapon, it's worse. Worse? He pointed to the holographic map. Your mother's using a gravity field to collapse the system. She's trying to erase our coordinates, wipe us out like we never existed. The ship shook violently. Systems began to fail. The princess gripped the console. We can't escape it. The human stood, limping toward the engine core. Maybe not, but we can fight it. He pulled open a maintenance panel and began rewiring cables, his hands moving quickly despite the pain. Sparks flew as he connected the last wire. The princess ran to him. What are you doing? Using what's left of the pulse drive, he said. If we overload it, it'll create a wormhole. Small, unstable, but maybe enough. Enough for what? To live. She looked at him, realizing what he meant. You're not coming with me. He didn't answer. She grabbed his arm. No, not again. You can't leave me. He smiled gently. You once said humans were dangerous because we protect what we love. You were right. Tears filled her eyes. Then protect me by staying. He touched her cheek softly. If I stay, you die. If I go, you live. That's how it works. The princess shook her head violently. You can't. But before she could finish, the ship lurched. The human pressed a sequence of buttons, sealing her inside the escape pod. Don't you dare, she cried, pounding on the glass. He looked at her through the pod window, smiling the same quiet smile she had seen the night he saved her. You'll see the stars again, princess. That's a promise. Then he hit the launch button. The pod shot away, spinning into the darkness as the ship exploded behind her in a blinding light. From the burning wreckage, a golden shockwave spread, cutting through the Queen's collapsing field. The energy shattered her weapon, and for the first time the Queen screamed. The explosion echoed across the galaxy. And then, silence. Weeks later, deep within an alien forest on a peaceful world, the escape pod opened. The princess stepped out, her silver hair shining under the twin suns. She looked at the sky, tears running down her face. The stars above were quiet again. In her hands, she held his broken helmet, the only thing that survived the blast. She whispered softly, "Tell me his name. Someone. Please." But the wind gave no answer. And then, a faint signal beeped from the helmet. A sound, weak but real. She gasped, falling to her knees. It was a heartbeat. Human. She whispered, her tears falling onto the metal. You're still out there. The signal blinked once more, steady and alive. Far away, beyond the edge of known space, a voice whispered through static, soft, broken but filled with fire. For the ones who remember Earth. I'm still here. The princess smiled through her tears, looking up at the stars that had once separated them. Then I'll find you, she said, no matter how far.